seen some rough days. I would actually say weeks, or maybe even months of Pokemon Unite. We survived most of the Zacian meta. I think we did. And when I say survive, I mean we just got thrown into another broken meta. We have creators, pros, and players left and right talking about the state of Unite to them, how they feel, and what they're going to do next. And some of them are just straight up quitting. So here's the actual state of Pokemon Unites. For the question of the day, I'd love to know what is something you love about Unite and something you think they need to improve on. Let me know your thoughts. So first, Spraggles recently made a video discussing about Pokemon Unite and if it's dying. And to quickly recap it, he states that Pokemon Unite isn't dying. This happens every year. There is always a drop after Unite Championships, and now it's the off season. Players usually come back with new updates and things that happen in the game. I agree with some of Spraggles' points. I don't think the game is dying, and there is usually a drop after the Unite Championships, but Unite also sees a lot of new players jumping in and old players returning, as it is getting a ton of hype and views during this time. But and this is a big but, the statement X game is dying is something that I don't usually take too seriously. Now, this isn't coming at anyone who says that at all. I will explain why. I play a lot of different competitive games. Still, I don't just only play Unite. I play Valorant, I play Smite, especially in Smite where players have been saying it's dying for like a decade now. Like if you're from Smite, you know. League of Legends and Fortnite, some of the biggest games. They also get quite a lot of comments that it is dying. So it's not just a Unite thing. This happens in a lot of games. The only exception is if you're from Australia, like me. Any game can feel like it's dying. Seriously. It's because we have a low population and we can't really queue in with other regions because we're so far away. In Fortnite, they had to close down duo queues after certain times because they can't get enough players in Australia. It's terrible. In Pokemon Unite, I also can't play after a certain time in Australia. I get frequent bot games when the bot games fail to find a game for me. It's so frustrating, but it's also just very Australia coded. A lot of people tend to compare games to their peaks, and sometimes it can feel like it's dying when there are massive drops. If you are somewhat active on Twitter or YouTube, you'll see videos, posts, and comments saying that X game is dying, and if the game is in a negative state, it can just really feel that way. I 100% get it. Do I think Pokemon Unite is dying? Is Thanos just snapping it into the void? No, I don't think so. But I do think that it's not impossible for any game to die, Unite included. However, games don't just drop dead, you blink and you're at its funeral. It's mostly just a slow decline. My concern is more on the health of the game and its current state, how it's making creators, pros, and players feel. The lack of communication is where I think the frustration stems from the most, and I get it. It feels like the silent treatment, and that feels horrible. A lot of longtime creators of Unite have been sharing their thoughts and frustrations with the game, some relating to each other, and it's awful to see. I feel so sad to read these things because I feel for them. I really do. I can relate to some of them as well. A lot of these creators and players are so passionate for Unite, so for some of them to take a step back from it, it must have not been an easy decision. Some pro players have been sharing things here and there about the current state, so both on a casual and competitive level, the meta just really sucks. The lack of communication, I would say, is the biggest problem. We don't understand why patches aren't rolling out or why they do the things they do. In my opinion, it seems that Pokemon Unite is on like a set schedule, so patches will just come out as it fits in the schedule. That's what it seems like to me. It seems like they don't actually do things based on how it is right now or what's going on. They just do it based on a set schedule. That's just how it feels. That's just my theory. I don't actually really know. Lack of communication is something very consistent with Pokemon Unite, and they say consistency is good. Just, I don't think in this area it's a good thing. And they actually did try to be better with it as well, which I really appreciate. They started releasing patches and say what they did to the Pokemon, which was really cool. One of our biggest W's is when we finally got a stat counter. They definitely were hearing us in some ways, but it just suddenly felt like it stopped. Things were looking so hopeful when the new producers shared that the legendaries were an issue, but nothing actually came out of it, and it probably made some of us feel worse because it was acknowledged, but nothing actually happened. It's like when a person on your team picks like an attacker when you already have 3 and then says defender needed. They acknowledged the issue, they did nothing to fix it. I think that the current meta, the lack of communication, and seeing creators / players and pro players take a step back can really affect our confidence in the game. Blaziken is a loved Pokemon that players were so excited to see, but the current meta just made the release not feel so great, and it really feel like it buried Blaziken a bit. Now, every year Pokemon Unite has its championships. It's the most intense and hype thing ever. You'll see new players, you'll see new peaks. It's an all-round great time. These statistics are from the Twitch tracker, and you can see huge peaks around June, July, and August. August being the championships and the months before leading up to it. There is massive potential and growth, but it just really hard drops. It's fair to see drops after a huge peak like that, but the drop is massive and it continues to drop. For some reason, Pokemon Unite doesn't seem to try and retain these players. It feels like they rely a bit on just new Pokemon to keep players interested. For example, the super popular Pokemon Mewtwo. When you're dealing with a bad meta, it can be incredibly frustrating and unfun for players, especially if they're newer. Getting farmed from a broken Mewtwo that is at a beginner level to use can feel awful for newer players when they're just trying out their favorite Pokemon. It can just feel really sucky. Seeing posts and videos about how bad the meta is can steer them away, and then there is lack of communication on Unite's part that can make players lose confidence. I think Pokemon Unite can be much bigger than it is if Unite can retain these new players and keep their player base in a happier state. Of course, it will never be like the happiest because there will always be criticism and things that we want changed, and that's just normal. It's normal for every game. There will always be things that the game gets criticized, as all games do, even with a lot of communication. For example, questionable changes. But usually in other games that have wacky changes, there will be hot fixes or even just more discussion around it to see what they can do better, and it usually gets changed pretty quick. For example, here is a great statement that I 100% agree with. League of Legends deliver updates every few weeks, usually 2. These updates are usually done to keep the game refreshing and avoid having repetitive metas where the strongest champions are being constantly played. This keeps the game in a much more healthier state. There are also quick hotfixes to address issues quickly. Refreshing and avoiding repetitive metas where the strongest, I would say in this case Pokemon, are being constantly played is so important, especially when the meta starts feeling very stale. A stale meta, I think, is something you want to avoid. I think you want to have something that you can strategize and change constantly. Not like massive changes where like you'll see massive difference in Pokemon usage, but you'll see some that emerge and some that just drop down. You do see some emergency patches in Pokemon Unite, but it's very rare. And then when we get the official patch, some of them are just really small or don't address major Pokemon like Mewtwo, or at least enough, and instead is a buff for other Pokemon or nerfs. It sometimes doesn't feel like it changes the meta at all because there is still a problematic Pokemon who is dominating the meta and leaving it for longer in an unhealthy state. And when a patch like that gets pushed out, we're stuck with that patch until the next one. If you guys don't remember, there was a patch a long time ago where we were waiting for a while and it was just Blissey. Blissey got a buff and that was it. That was it. That was the patch. And then we had to wait a long time for the next one. I think the Mewtwo meta has been almost 2 months now, and the Zacian one was even longer, if I can remember correctly. Hopefully most of you agree. I'm not asking for a perfect game, but I just want to see more care put into it. One thing I found strange was during the official general Pokemon livestream from Nintendo, where they showcased news and things for all the Pokemon games, Pokemon Unite was not included. This was during the 2nd year anniversary. There was no news about the 2nd year anniversary in the official Pokemon livestream. However, for the 1st year anniversary, it was shown during the live stream and it was incredibly exciting to see. I remember jumping quickly to record, talking about it. It was just so cool. I was literally screaming. I also compared the views from that time to this time, so I'm going by memory here, but MaxiQ will show you an edit. The 1st year anniversary trailer got like between 150k to 200k views. One of them is my trailer. If you guys remember, I did voice one of the Pokemon Unite trailers. Still one of my proudest achievements. Yeah, not what my mum wanted, but. And then this year's one was like 30 to 50k, which is a lot less. I also want to see a brand new map, and meta was also introduced in Pokemon Unite in between, and it just really refreshed the state of the game, and it was just awesome. Pokemon Unite at its core is such a fun game to play. As a kid, I could never imagine controlling some of my favorite Pokemon and battling others, so I really do hope they make some big changes. I love the game, and I still have a lot of fun, and you can love a game and feel frustrated, and that's what I feel, frustrated. It just feels being left blinded about what the game is going to do next. So yeah, in my opinion, the current state of Unite is a bit of a mess, and as a creator, this is the most frustration I've seen from it, from the general players, creators, etc. I'm going to keep trying to push for more changes because this game is still really fun, and we experience these fun times when they actually do it right. So let's just hope they can do it right most of the time. I'd love to know your thoughts. Feel free to leave them down in the comments down below. Thank you to my patrons for supporting my videos. If you'd like to be a part of my Patreons, the link is down below. Thanks for watching, trainers. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye.